Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bipartisan amendment is similar to my Ranching Without Red Tape Act, which cuts unnecessary regulatory hurdles for public land grazers and gives ranchers more flexibility to make minor improvements to their leased range lands in a timely fashion. This is an easy, common sense fix for a chronic problem that impacts thousands of ranchers with federal allotments in many of our districts nationwide. In my district alone, 9,000 ranchers raise over 1.2 million head of cattle, and those ranchers hold over 2,000 grazing allotments across millions of acres of public lands throughout New Mexico. Currently, folks who lease federal grazing permits must undergo an absurdly complex and time-consuming paperwork process to make even the most minor of improvements to their leased rangelands. That means sometimes a task as simple as putting out a new water, repairing a fence, or making a minor road repair becomes a months-long bureaucratic headache that usually results in a lengthy lease renegotiation process. That's the last thing they need when they're making minor improvements. In my first month in office, a cattle grower in my district came to my office and told me about his struggles with these straightforward improvements. When his pasture fence deteriorated, as many of them often do, he was forced to wait several months for a response from the Forest Service for approval to rebuild a new pasture fence, risking his cattle and his livelihood. Since then, in my conversations with cattle growers and other producers across the district, I've heard this consistent message. The current federal permitting process for minor range improvements is excessively burdensome and needs reform. These delays cost time and money and contribute to the rising cost of beef and other meat products in this country. It's also important to emphasize that this bill isn't about shortcuts. I personally spend most of my time when I'm outdoors in the backcountry, and I can personally attest to the simple fixes on leased grazing land that can and should be done along remote stretches of Forest Service land that shouldn't trigger an unnecessary and new regulatory process. By eliminating this unnecessary red tape, we can help producers improve relationships between leaseholders and federal land managers, local communities, and the federal government, and give ranch hands the tools they need to get to work and increase productivity. This bipartisan solution is sensible for ranchers, for our public lands, and the communities we represent. I urge support for this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Appreciate the gentleman offering this amendment today. The farmers and ranchers are the original conservationists, and they are the most effective and caring stewards of the land that I've ever met. However, some Forest Service grazing permittees have reported that they've experienced delays with approvals for common activities such as fencing repairs. This amendment from the gentleman from New Mexico takes an important step to give greater autonomy to those who have a strong moral and financial incentive to improve the land. I appreciate you bringing this issue forward today, and I encourage my fellow committee members to vote in favor of the amendment. Any other members seek recognition to speak on this amendment? Any other members seek recognition to speak on Mr. Vasquez's amendment? Hearing no further conversation, the question is on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to.